Before we go to the next question, there's been lots of talk around the investment of e-commerce. And the one thing I wanted to ask you, Sajjad, because I think you would know more than most, is that there's a number of retailers, and I won't name names, but particularly in the UK, that have obviously been, publicised that they've never gone online. The value proposition, the operating model just doesn't dictate to investing in online. Is that the only limitation for retailers sometimes, not to have this online presence? I appreciate there's lots of e-tailers coming to the market. There's the mobile only, never use a store, but there's plenty of household names and within this region, particularly in the UAE, that we all want them to go online, but for whatever reason they just don't.
No, I think it's definitely a very topical discussion, and it's a discussion that has always been around when it comes to retail. So, I've been fortunate enough to work in retail for 18 years now, working within e-commerce within retailers. So back in England, it was the likes of Halfords and Dunelm, and the investment decisions have always been quite challenging for retailers, in that retailers are really good at opening stores, and they understand how to open stores, they understand how to make them profitable, and they pay back very quickly. I think the challenge that most retailers have found is that the online business doesn't drive quick profitability. So therefore, in the early days, it's always been very much a case of, well, shall I open another store or shall I go and do this online thing? Well, pound for pound, money for money, I'll go and open another store because it's easy, I know how to do it, and I'm going to make more money. So there was always this discussion about where should I spend my money to get the most return. And for retailers, that's always been very much about return on investment. So I think that mindset has also been one of the things that has perhaps limited retailers going online, where they were very much looking at, I need to hit the Q1 numbers, I need to hit my EBITDA, I need to hit my profitability, the share price, and therefore I don't want to call it short-termism, but there have been some of those decisions that have been made around the short-term economics and profitability of businesses. I think the investment discussion has also changed, however, because I think 5-6 years ago, everybody would say you need to spend millions and millions of dollars to get online, and the reality is now that that's not true. Clearly, it depends on your business, but we mentioned the mass adoption of platforms like Shopify already, and the push to marketplaces. This week we've seen eBay back in the press. They haven't been in the press for the last 5 years and have almost become the sleeping giant, and they seem to have been reborn with a passion of getting SME and larger retailers back online. So quite often the decision around the investment is still a debate. Do you want to test and go live with a Shopify, or do you want to sort of go big and build a real future? And I think if you look at the apparel space, online has been in the DNA for many, many years now, with all of the big retailers globally now having, strong online businesses. But everyone does it differently. If you take a Steve Madden in the States, they run millions and millions of dollars of revenue through Shopify. So they've gone from something that's quite light, quite quick, and not too complicated. Other brands prefer to have a really in-depth omni-channel proposition where they can ship from store, they can do click and collect, they have iPods and iPads in the store, and clearly that needs a different level of investment to having a single website in a single country. But unfortunately, like you said, the case study that we're all sort of talking about is Primark, and I think it's quite an interesting mention. You take Primark, they recently opened in Birmingham 160,000 square foot emporium, which has obviously been shut now with its other 188 or 189 stores that they've got in England. And Primark are an amazing retailer, right? They've got a great proposition, they've got a great product range, great pricing, great locations, great stores for the customer that they service. But unfortunately, they're one of very few retailers today that haven't managed to leverage their investment in online. So they went from doing, I don't know, I think a £680 million business or $680 business, that their monthly turnover, and now they're not doing anything. Now, I know from what I've read, and I know personally, that obviously Primark have looked at e-commerce a number of times, as have other businesses. And for them, it perhaps wasn't so much the technology investment, it was more the economics. And we talked about the cost of returns and the cost of delivery earlier. And for Primark, because they operate at the sort of the lower end, their basket values are quite small. So therefore, the cost of delivery for them actually impacts the gross margin and the profitability that you would make on a low basket transaction, such as a Primark transaction. And I sort of get that, but I just think that in this day and age, there are so many other options for you to counter that with. You know, I would believe, and I would guess that the Primark actually have quite a lot of loyal customers. I would guess they have a number of customers that buy every season from them, or 3, 4, 5 times a year. I don't think it's a purchase that you make once a year. And therefore, we've seen a lot of businesses develop, you know, subscription packages for delivery. So you pay £10 or £20 a year or dollars, and you get free delivery for the rest of the year. I'm challenging a lot of our brands to charge for delivery. I don't think there is the need to always offer free delivery, especially in a market in the Middle East where we're still very nascent and the product isn't very readily available. So I think there are different ways that you can make the economics work. But I think at this stage, what's crucial is that you start, and whether you start with a smaller investment or a bigger investment, it doesn't really matter. But now is the time to get started, and there are so many options out there for you to jump on. And whether it's a Shopify with a Steve Madden or something more complicated and linked into your enterprise systems, there's a lot of SaaS options now available.
It's really interesting concepts. I think one of the things that I've noticed is that the chief digital officers or equivalent have really got more of a, I guess, more of a seat at the table. I hate to use that cliche term, but they're actually being listened to now. And I think the options, dare I say, a commoditized environment with some of the technology platforms now, that it isn't as heavily invested. And I know particular retailers in Saudi Arabia, for example, that have set up their own, you know, app in a matter of days. Now, yes, post-purchase, I understand it's not going to be the most you know, fluid, but they've got a platform, they've got something they can work with for the future. Yeah. That's a credit to them. Saj, thank you very much for your commentary today. It was very, very useful for us, and I'm sure there's a number of people that are very interested in your comments as well. I just want to say thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
And I look forward to catching up with you very, very soon.
All the best. Thank you. Thank you, David. Take care.